Welcome to the heretics and blasphemers, to the seekers of the unseen. You who have stepped beyond the borders of the conventional, we welcome you into the shadowed corridors of the occult and the profane. This is Unsanctioned, where the forbidden becomes knowledge and the boundaries are meant to be broken.
I am La Hechicera Len, who stands at the crossroads where spirits dwell and whisper secrets. Here, we explore the symbols, spells, and stories that society fears to acknowledge.
And I am Sebastian, the sorcerer of annihilation. I believe in tearing down the false walls of illusion and embracing chaos. Together, we're here to shatter taboos and illuminate what lurks in the dark corners of folklore and magic.
So, we live in hell. Everything is just, there's been a lot of memes. As the type of practitioner and the traditions I'm in, I see a lot of the like Chinese New Year memes. And there's like, instead of it being the dog and it being like, oh, this is fine and everything's on fire, it's a horse because it's the year of the fire horse and it's saying everything's fine. What the fuck is happening? This shit has been fucking crazy, and I didn't sign up for this. Okay, let's go back. We need to restart 2026. I'm over this. You know, joking, haha, funny, not really, but I'm gonna joke about it because what? Why not? If I go off screen suddenly, it's probably because a nuke was dropped on my city. Thank you to our Hot Cheeto president. Yeah,
Hot
so
Cheeto ass.
which I hate that because I'm like, bitch, I'm Latino. We're Hot Cheeto girlies. That's
Yeah.
insulting to the Hot Cheetos. But how are you two doing today?
I'm
I'll let you
great.
go first, Genesis.
Oh, whoop! I'm over here like I'm great. I woke up at the witching hour last night, so I'm ready.
We love a good omen. Hopefully it was good.
Mhm.
It's all like, actually, it was a horrible omen. I woke up and saw the horrors. Girl, that's
Actually,
just
today's
that's
gonna
just
be
every
every
horrible.
day.
day.
Yeah, it's like that's every day.
Every day.
Every time I open my eyes. How are you, Len?
Every week feels like years. I am so tired of all the shit that is going on. I feel like as I do each week ahead reading for the Patreon, it's like, hey, these are days. Fuck shit up. Do more things. Burn is the ground. We need more violence. Fight these people. Fight. Oh my god.
Emphasis on the more violence part.
Yeah.
We live in such a passive country. It pisses me off. We all know my
Mhm.
standing on this if you've listened to the podcast or follow me on social media. Girl, go get your hands dirty. Girl, you can serve cunt, you can be mother and get a little blood on your hands, okay? It's a cunty look. It's a cunty look, and you need to have that look under your belt. But yeah, so welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned. Today we have an amazing opportunity to talk to Genesis and dive into an episode talking about sacrifice and its role in practice, in history, what we utilize it for today. It's going to be a lot of fun, so don't forget to leave a like or rating wherever you listen to Unsanctioned. It helps us to reach more people looking to travel down the path less taken.
And don't forget to join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/unsanctioned. The UNS is capitalized, where we have 3 tiers for you to embark upon: the heretic, the malefactor, and the blasphemer.
We have an email. Use it. We want to hear from you. Send us your stories, experiences, questions, and more to podcastunsanctioned@gmail.com or stop by our website at unsanctionedonline.com and contact us over there. I'm Sebastian, the Sorcerer of Annihilation. You can find me on social media at Sebas_the_storm on Instagram, Threads, and other social media where I offer services like divination, spellwork, and sorcery for hire. And don't be afraid to check out my tattoo page for occult and witchcraft oriented tattoos at sebas.tatt on Instagram.
And I'm La Hechicera Len. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at hechicera_Len.
And I am Genesis, the Hellcat Witch on Instagram for now. I do art and spell work. Basically, anything magical or art related, you can find me there. And I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, so glad to have you here.
We're super excited, and so today we're gonna talk about the role of sacrifice in myth, in reality, in practice, in a number of different ways. And so I'm really excited for us to kind of dive into that.
So let's start with like some historical context. This is a question to everyone, but mostly to you, Genesis, for all of us. Um, can you explain the significance of sacrifice in ancient civilizations and how it's viewed in religious practices?
Honestly, with a lot of what I know from it, I will say like the thing that stuck out to me was it actually kind of started the wheel of events of how I kind of started weaving my way into studying a lot of ATRs actually. I was in high school geography class, and for some reason, there was this small little paragraph about the Haitian Revolution and how it was basically brought about and succeeded by Haitian voodoo. And granted, I'm not here to talk about it because I'm not initiated, nor am I like super into it. But that was primarily a lot of research I did initially, and learning about that and how basically kind of those are the building blocks to a lot of spiritual successes throughout history and ancient civilizations, how gods were honored or how, natural events were brought to basically aid the community as well, kind of elevates and changes the narrative of what we know about sacrifice from, negative perceptions via Hollywood, spookified kind of elements of it that are oftentimes demonized when they're pretty much present in almost every single branch of spirituality pre Christianity. So that was kind of what like led me to it though. I was like, oh, okay. And then I just started tracing threads.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point that you make about it being something that we see across civilizations. Like, this isn't something that is condensed to one specific group or groups of people. We see this all over the place. So we see this context in even in early Abrahamic faiths. Sacrifice did sit there as well. We see it before that, of course. We see it in a number of cultures. We see it in even cultures that today we might call more pacifist or like more peaceful. They wouldn't like do that kind of thing nowadays. They did before. Certain events just lead to changes in their cultures and their religious practices that eventually lead up to these syncretic changes that occur across the board. So I think it's a really cool point to like bring that up, just to remind everyone that like, listen, today the word sacrifice is very taboo, but it wasn't always a taboo word. And sometimes the word has just evolved in a way that maybe you don't know it anymore. So now today, a lot of modern practitioners may be making sacrifices, but they're calling them offerings and wouldn't consider it the same as a sacrifice. But these words over time have kind of just bled together and kind of just now are equating similar concepts, but because we have this taboo around the word sacrifice, people aren't going to use that term, or they're going to try to avoid to use that term in a number of ways. But sacrifice had a very important role in a lot of different civilizations. This was the building block, or more so the gear, less so the building block and more the gear that turned everything in a lot of different cosmologies. Without the sacrifice, this gear was going to stop, and then the end of the world was going to happen, the end of your people was going to happen, bad things would happen. You wouldn't get rain, you wouldn't get food, you wouldn't get prosperity, you wouldn't get fertility in any way, shape, or form. These things are the concept of for ancient civilizations, that idea of equal exchange. You give us this, we give you this in sacrifice. Again, like, it's an exchange that kind of happens in a number of different cultures depending on the viewpoints of the culture. And it sits different slightly in every culture, but the role of its importance kind of is present in a number of cultures. um that kind of answered the next
I like
question.
that. I was like,
Was didn't even mean to, so apologies there. But so we'll kind of continue. But in traditional witchcraft and sorcery practices, what kind of sacrifices or were typically made? You know, do you have any context on that?
yeah, I think if anybody has actually opened most of the grimoires that are there, more specifically, I've read like Libro San Cipriano. So, like, there are so many pieces that, probably have shifted in modern practice or not, but like, you can't really talk about them or like be open about doing certain things just because there are rituals that involve animal sacrifice or the usage of animal parts, to which I'm leaving that to the practitioner's discretion of whether or not they want to disclose. But with those, there's like a lot of elements of that in there, but also to like honoring the dead animals and basically honoring your spirit before using them. There are certain rituals that are associated with those practices and a lot of those texts as well. So it's kind of like, how could we, not know, or like in a sense that it has changed over time, but with most of those grimoires, there's going to be that element in there.
That's something we're going to talk in the post show about because, bitch, someone said some shit on Instagram and it pissed me the fuck off,
Oh,
involving animal remains and like, performing certain rites before using them or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's something we're going to kiki about later. um, but yeah, that's such a good point. Like, if we just want to talk about traditional sorcery and traditional like witchcraft, there are so many examples of sacrifice there. Like, sacrifice was the initiation in a lot of these grimoires. Like, bitch, you can't do shit until you do this sacrifice in this grimoire. And like, whether you want to do it or not, like, girl, that's gonna be up to you. But at the end of the day, if you want to get shit done, shit needs to get done. And so I think a lot of people do see that and then they're like, well, I mean, it's not like actually necessary, right? Like, a lot of modern practitioners may be like, I'm just going to skip over that. That makes me uncomfortable. And I'm like, the point is that it's supposed to be uncomfortable. This
Yeah.
is an initiation. There is the concept here. We've talked about it before on the podcast with like initiations and like things like the black cat rites and
Yeah, I
the
was like,
toad
there's those
rites.
too. Yeah, those are exactly what I was mentioning, like, if or like thinking of, but I was like, I don't know if I could say that. But like, they have that, but it's real stuff that actually is in history and was like documented by several people in several practices. Um, so it's just kind of like, it's always going to be there. It's just people are going to not talk about it as openly because, again,
Right.
our culture and also our amount of surveillance has really changed. So it's kind of like, you will probably, it will be much more difficult for you to do these things unless you plan it or unless, you're really serious about it, because it's so much easier to actually be surveilled while doing these things. So it's kind of like, it has morphed even with the changing of like how technologically advanced we are and how much society and witchcraft and sacrifice in itself has changed. Also, like with certain practices, it's not necessarily customary to give like animals or blood or anything like that, depending on how you're taught with certain spirits. For example, like with Santissima, like I work with her mainly, not here to teach on that, but like I don't give her animals or anything like that because it's what I was taught not to do. But other people might, depending on what other paths they're associated with. I've seen it kind of shift.
Yeah, like on that note, like for my tradition with Santissima, she demands blood. She requires it. But like, for those of you who've listened, I don't hide this. Like, it's not really like the folk saint Santissima that I'm working with. It's Mitika Siwat. So we have that Mexica folklore
Right.
aspect where in Mexica folklore, blood is required. Like, nothing's gonna get done until you give that payment. And so that can always look a little interesting to some people because there are those traditions where you don't give like certain types of blood or like offerings to Santissima. There are other spirits too within other traditions, or like even talking about Mexica, like we wouldn't give Quetzalcoatl a blood offering because that would be offensive, to my understanding, with Quetzalcoatl. Um, and so there are spirits like that too, where like giving certain types of sacrifice would be like extremely offensive. There are uh, other spirits in like Buddhist Taoist folklore that you would not give like an offering to, right? Modern practitioners don't give Ganesha, Ganapati blood, right? But there are records of a really long time ago. I'd have to double check my research, but I do have my document somewhere of like them giving Ganapati blood offerings and small animal sacrifices. And so there is this like concept there, but like a lot of modern practitioners, or like if you told somebody like, oh yeah, like Ganapati and like blood offerings, they'd be like, whoa, no, absolutely not. But there are certain spirits that are like, this is required, like this is necessary, this is something that sustains me. Um, and are you going to basically, are you going to keep my sustenance from me? Are you going to refrain from giving me sustenance? Or are you going to perform the necessary sacrifice? So not only can I not necessarily exist, but be sustained in a way that's helpful to you and to myself. So I think that's something that people need to take into account. Like when we're looking at these grimoires, when we're looking at these spirits, and the reason why sacrifice is existing is like these concepts here. Like, what is it? Why is the sacrifice necessary? It's not just for shits and giggles. There is sustenance here. There is reasoning here. There isn't just some, oh my God, you know what? For the aesthetic, go grab a black cat. Not how that's gonna work. Even the journey of like finding the sacrifice is part of the work itself of sacrifice. It's part of that offering of sacrifice. It's part of this concept as a whole, right? It's not supposed to just be like, oh my God, yeah, I just have like a bunch of this sitting around, I'm going to use this for sacrifice kind of thing. It's not like I'm just going to grab an entire herd of cattle and sacrifice the entire herd. No, that's just wasteful, right? That's the other thing here, is that sacrifice isn't wasteful. It's very
Right.
carefully done. um, you're not going to see people just sacrifice it. Like, that's your entire livestock. Why would you why would you do that? That's
Yes.
your food. um, so there have been instances in which they are, but those are extreme instances. Like, for example, there are historical contexts where either the people were about to be taken over and slaughtered by an invading people, or like natural disasters of immense scales were occurring, so they slaughtered all the cattle to be like, please, gods, have mercy. But you don't see that. That's like very far and few between, which kind of leads us to our next question. We've kind of touched based on like the next two, which is kind of fun. So the next one was, are there any common misconceptions about sacrifice in witchcraft or occult practices that you'd like to clarify a little bit more on?
Yeah, for sure. I think with the morphing of the word, it's been very like either A, used too little, or B, used too much. I kind of see a lot of these patterns in a lot of situations online, of course, because it's such a instantaneous and not so much individualistic thinking or critical thinking aspect of the word. But I think a lot of times people will only think it's something huge, or like it's a life, in a sense of like a physical one, but also to like sacrifice is more than just, live things. It can be behaviors, it could be vices or addictions that you break. It could be a whole life, but like a whole lifestyle. Like, for example, like one of the biggest sacrifices I ever made was to get here to Austin. My entire life was left at the curb, and the only pieces that came with me were what fit in my car, and that was mainly my spirits. Mainly my spirits, and any like tools I could hold on to. Um, that was a sacrifice. I lost my entire library. I lost my entire like collection of knowledge. I lost a lot of things that, would have been valuable to carry with me. But I think this chapter required me to literally empty myself out in order to actually handpick the next pieces that were kind of brought to me for my own spiritual relationship, as well as like to grow my practice. Because now I'm like doing things that I've always wanted to do, but I couldn't do it in the previous life that I was living. Um, a lot of times I think too, like if you promise something as payment, even if it's like a manda or if it's something that you're giving up completely, whether you know it or not, that's still sacrifice. I think it still counts. You give up time. That's probably one of the biggest sacrifices you can make. Is what are you spending your time doing? Is it something to pay respect to your spirits, or is it something that you're not managing well? What is like kind of that for you, and what does it represent? And at the same time, what is happening on the other side when you do that? Like, what is its representation for you? It's a symbol as much as it is a word.
That's such a good point of like sacrifice isn't just the like actual physical like life or the ending of that in some way, shape, or form, or like the letting of blood, but also like it is this, it's an offering. And so there are different types of sacrifices that can be made, and I think that's such a good point because I also when I moved up here to Denver, did the same thing. Me and my partner, it was only what could fit in our cars. And pretty much it was basic needs and our spirits, and that was pretty much it. And so we had to start from scratch, but that exchange happens. You clear everything out, you make this amazing sacrifice, and then things get so much better. Yes, it's not easy because you're starting from scratch. There's going to be road bumps or blocks occasionally here and there, but it just leads to such a grandiose a change that doesn't happen without sacrifice. Like, if there's something that somebody said once, and it's such a great little quote, it's giving Pinterest, live, laugh, love. But if nothing changes, then nothing's going to change. And so I think sacrifice is such an initiator of change. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's its point, right? It's that gear that changes everything, it's that gear that makes everything move. So these sacrifices can look a lot of different ways, and we need to utilize these in a way that's not abusing the tool, but acknowledging its form and function in a way that's beneficial to us as practitioners.
I agree. It's kind of like what was that? There was another quote that was very similar to that. It was your new life cost you the old one. That's very true. So it was like me like a year ago never would have moved by myself, let alone to somewhere where it's like I only have a few people that I know. I never thought I could do this. So I was like, oh, it really does cost you something. It is a payment. So it is like you're trading something or you're offering up that old way to start completely basically wiping your slate clean.
Speaking of sacrifice and it being a symbol, as you said, Genesis, there's something that I wanted to ask. Like, do you think that literal sacrifice is something that we do see still today, something that we still see frequently, something that's still practiced, that is a living tradition, or do you think it's become mainly symbolic?
No, I definitely still think it's real. I just don't think people broadcast it on the internet. So it's like it's gonna happen. I think it's still happening today. I think in the most probably evil way. How many people do you think are being sacrificed because of the political situation that we're going into? Like, that's something. And that's like the really nasty side of it that, nobody likes talking about, but like it's there. But also, too, you have just as many people still practicing their traditions today that still do it. It's not just a symbol and it's not just a metaphor. It's still happening. And it's very important to realize that that is still something that should be preserved because of how it's been spun against the very people who are doing it for the beneficial reasons of their communities. Not to use the weapons against the people who essentially, were doing it for beneficial reasons. They take their medicine and they make it into poison. It's very sad.
On that note, little side tangent. Did y'all hear his fucking speech? His Lord Farquaad ass speech. Like, I had to laugh because like at this point, like if not, I'm gonna it's gonna go a different direction. he gave a speech and basically was like, there's going to be casualties. Basically like he's willing to sacrifice American lives. And it was like the Lord Farquaad speech of him like, what is it? Some of you will die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Like, are you fucking joking?
I mean, it's literally
But-
happening if we're looking at what happened in Kansas where trans people can't drive. I'm like very close to becoming a casualty every day of this. So I'm like, I'm gonna go out with a bang if I do. Like,
girl,
I
as you
mean-
fucking should. I've already told people, listen, if when they come for me, because we all know it's not if, it's when.
yeah, it's just when I will
I'm taking
gladly
as
be on
many
that.
down
Like,
with
please
me.
put me on the stake. Like, put me on the stake, and I'll just, release a curse when my body burns or whatever. And I'll be up there to help on the other side. I'm like, somebody better tend to my bones. That's all. Grab my skull, like,
Mhm.
use it as an oracular head, like, bring me back. Like, I'm gonna be fighting from one way or the other. So it just, I don't know. It's very just like a
I
fever
wanna-
dream to sit here and be like, oh my God, this is happening. And then, oh my God, in Kansas, it's like, what? That's why I have not
It
been to a
really
DMV. I'm like, I'm not going in there. Y'all are not catching me.
Right.
If anything, I'm being
Absolutely not.
invisible from the system as much as I can be because. Mm-mm. Not yet.
Genesis is gonna be what's her name from American Horror Story? Balenciaga.
Oh my God,
Yeah, I'm gonna be Myrtle.
Yes.
I'm gonna be Myrtle.
Myrtle Snow. Yes.
I just have one word.
You know what? It may just be easier, not to be that bitch, but it really might be easier if we're all just doing it from the other side.
Honestly, I hate that I have thoughts like that because I'm like, that's not really healthy, is it? But I'm like, also look
Like,
at
it's
the world,
definitely
though.
not healthy. We are
I'm like-
so sane and so normal.
Oh no, I'm
Right.
insane. I'm very insane. I just hide it well. I just have a RBF
Yeah.
and people.
I don't hide it
yeah.
well.
I guess it just
Yeah.
depends on the
I
day for
barely-
me. There's some days where I'm like, my spirit is heated and therefore I'm just gonna look like how I feel. But other days I'm just like, oh, it's hiding way back there.
It's funny that you said that about like your bones and like just use my bones. And, like,
No,
blah,
I'm
blah,
for
blah. I
real.
was
Someone
like,
better make an altar
Yeah,
and like
no.
fill it and like bring me back because I'm serious. Like if I've done all this in my life, I'm gonna not come back and I'm gonna help from the other side. I'm not reincarnating. I'm not. I'm choosing that somehow. Like somebody better get my bones.
That's so funny. 'Cause
Somebody
that's
better make
literally
a
what I was
spirit
thinking
house.
about last night. Was like Santa Muerte. Like, look, I'm not being reincarnated. I have shit I gotta do.
Yeah.
I got people I need to help. But
I'll
it was
come
funny
back
because I
some
was
way,
like
but
thinking
not
about
like
it.
that.
Yeah, and I was like, girl, I'm gonna be so pissed off if a nuke drops on me because my bones won't be here. There's gonna be nothing. There won't be nothing left. But it's funny that you say that because like we've done our like little seals for like to call on like different aspects of ourselves, and I was like, well, if something happens, I hope people utilize that because I will show up and we will get shit done. But also like y'all need to do the part where you call on me. Y'all need to bring, and funny enough, we've talked about this in the past, you will need a sacrifice
Yep.
to bring me to get some shit done if you call on me.
People
We
make
should do that
jokes.
experiment- that
My
little thing
sacrifice
again.
is like
We'll
bring
do
me
it
a
for
Marlboro.
this post show.
But great points, honestly. Speaking of what happened in Kansas, listeners, a little sneak peek. I don't have a cute name for it yet. I'm going to ask these two wonderful girlies to help me out. But I am working on either some kind of amuleto or talisman. It's currently in the works right now for our trans community because they're always targeted first, and I'm so tired of nobody fucking doing shit and everybody just fucking standing around and not doing fucking shit. So I'm doing something. So we'll talk about that in the post show. Helping me name this amuleto or whatever, because it's something that will give a little positive to the reason why I have to fucking create this bullshit in the first place. Which you can ask Glenn. I've been so fucking pissed off about shit lately. But we digress. So, we talked about, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I did want to say one more thing about like the sacrifice, whether or not it's literal, and how it's kind of become, how it's changed. Literal sacrifice, allegedly. We allegedly engage in literal sacrifice. That's for you to decide whether or not what that means, or whatever that means. Um, but I feel like people, even non-practitioners, people who are not engaged in the occult at all, engage in sacrifice all the time. You give things up. You sometimes you do it willingly and not even know that you're sacrificing. Really, like I'm thinking of like people that go to church,
You think
that
of Lent?
tithe, that do these things. Yeah. They are oh yeah, like also Lent. But I mean like people that make offerings to the church, that tithe, give money, things like that. Um they are feeding a monster, a beast that is the organized religion that is here. Like I'm thinking like specifically here in the United States, they are
Yes.
contributing to it. They are complicit in it. Um, and it works against us in many ways. But they're, yeah, people do it all the time and may not even realize it. I don't know where I was going with that. I think that was
That's
it.
such a good point, though, because it like literally makes sense in that way. Because it's almost like
Mm.
churches nowadays, at least, well, no, not nowadays. They've always been this way. Ever since they became
Yeah.
like organized, and ever since basically in all of American history, considering what it was founded upon, which is racism, and well, it was like literally they're just designed to depress, suppress, and oppress, and that's something that one of my I consider elders would always say, and like that was what it was, and that's what it is today, and that's very interesting how you pointed out that's how they feed it. That's very interesting. I really like that a lot. I wouldn't have thought about it that way.
Not to sound like a weird evangelical Christian, but it's spiritual warfare. We are
Yeah,
engaged in
they're
spiritual
like
warfare.
feeding the egregore, like
Um,
an egregore, like a thought form of like what
yeah.
white supremacist nationalist Christianity, what white Jesus basically is the face of. That's the face of
Fuck
white
white
supremacy.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, all of this got whitewashed and is now being consistently fed, and also having to be raised, indoctrinated, saying certain things at the beginning of school. Oh God, I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, it's the amount of just complete suppression of anybody actually thinking critically about what has happened over the years is insane. And the fact that most people, especially like I'm from Memphis, so there's like a church on every street corner. And some of them are like the mega churches, like the big ones that have their own cards and they go around like spreading the word. It's very interesting to see how that system has really kind of become its own cult in itself, if I dare give it that word. And how it's being fed. So that was just interesting. I really like that you said that.
Girl, Texas too. They're on every corner. They're right next to each other. They'd be 3 churches in a fucking row.
I'm still in the Bible Belt. I'm just in the blue dot in the red state. So
Same.
Yeah, technically same. But it's funny because like you guys were talking, my spirits were saying something, and then I was like, "What a great idea!" That I was like,
you
might
could
get
see the
canceled if I
whirlwind
say that.
happening. You're like,
But
honestly, I would
they
be
were like,
canceled
"What
if I
if?"
said half of the thoughts that I said or that I think. So I really try to manage it well. And I'm like, just shh. I have to shush myself.
Listen, not gonna lie, it's a miracle I haven't already from the alleged shit that I've done allegedly and said that I've done on this podcast is wild. But the idea was like, oh my god, what if we like went around to churches and like buried or hid like the pinnacle of Saturn for like destruction and like earthquakes in these churches
Casey is wild.
and offered them as sacrifice.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I we need a shirt. Me and my girlies hate white Jesus.
Hmm.
Um,
I like that one.
that's gonna be one of our merch items. I couldn't stop thinking about like when you guys said white Jesus of American Gods when there's like all the different Jesuses.
No, literally, like
Yeah.
this is like what American gods are, and it's like literally a white supremacist image of, the man in the clouds, which is basically white Jesus now, just like, and like
It's
white
Jesus in a
Mary,
MAGA hat.
yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of we the concept of communities in various ways, um, I love a smooth transition. How do these acts of sacrifice serve the practitioner or community in various ways?
Oh, there's so many routes we could go with that, honestly, because I feel like if you're gonna like literally sacrifice, like, and you're actually going to do it whatever way you choose to, for one, I would expect there to be like a very heavy reason on the other end that you're doing so. Because I mean, most people, unless they're like really wanting to work their hands, in some way, on their tables, on their altars, or with spirits, whatever the case may be, you have to go through things and actually like walk this walk, whatever it is for you. Because again, there's like 50,000 different paths you can walk in, you know, one umbrella, you know? But with that being said, like, I think if you make sacrifices, it's to get yourself to a place where you can actually give back. You're giving something to receive, whether that be, your gifts to grow. If you have innate gifts, I think some people attain their gifts through sacrifice. Um, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret that. And it's like sometimes you have to give something to receive something, whether that's the ability to work for other people, the ability to grow your gifts, the ability to open up spiritually in order to serve the community. I think for me, and I can only really speak for myself. I can regurgitate everything I've read, of course, but in my life, like being where I am now, a lot of what I sacrificed was my proximity to security, safety, stability, in a sense, privilege. I'm still privileged with the skin that I have, and I walk around with that every day. But other than that, it's like I've been closer to homeless, potentially, killed or dead. I've been closer to near death situations than ever in my life before, seeing what we're up against. But at the same time, I'm still where I want to be and where I've been wanting to be. I didn't think that I would ever get here. Didn't think I'd make it here alive. During the drive, I drove overnight. I didn't stop except for gas and like to use a restroom. It was like in the middle of night, and it was like, I didn't know if I'd live through this experience. I really didn't. So it is kind of like you're giving everything to receive something back, whether it's, the pieces of yourself that you lost to a lot of the life that you were living, because you do make sacrifices when you live a false life. You celebrate the false idol of yourself, if we want to get biblical of it, or you're living as a false idol of yourself. And so you have to get to know your authentic self again, or whatever the spirits that are choosing you and calling you, whoever they are. If you're getting to know them and you're building that relationship and you want to deepen that, you're going to have to give up a lot, and you're going to have to undo a lot of patterns from my experience that were like, you don't know that you're raised with this until you look at it from a whole different way. And that is going to require like removing everything from yourself. It might even require like, you losing everything, and not in a good way, because capitalism doesn't reward witches. It doesn't reward people like me. It doesn't reward any of us. And if we're using class as a way to determine success or power, that's very much feeding the same narrative that oppresses everybody else. So it's kind of like I was willing to be on the corners, be in the walls, be in the shadows, not be a superstar. I don't do this to be an influencer or like an aesthetic witch. I think it is beautiful, and there are pieces of that are part of its practice. But at the same time, you have to really go through stuff, and that's going to require ripping your skin off and putting it back on, stitching it back together. dying and then coming back to life and crawling out of the grave. Not just, you know, it's not like you just get gifted with these riches and these powers immediately. It's not like you get given your things just because you did something. You have to rebuild yourself. Your suffering becomes part of your power. And, you know, it's like the system's against us. Witches don't live. I mean, some of them, I'm not going to speak for all of them, but we were not liked by anybody. We were cast out by people, and people still came to us because they knew that we had these gifts or that we did some things to get them, whatever it is that you choose to do in your practice. Or like, you know, I more so align with witch than sorcery. I don't, you know, practice, you know, grimoirically specifically, but traditional witchcraft, yeah, like those old forces are there. They've always been there. They're present in every single tradition in some way, just with that cultural and, you know, different backgrounds. There's a thread that connects all of it. But you've got to actually, you know, be willing to suffer, even if it's, you know, even if you don't know where you're going. You're giving it up so you can find out. That was a lot. Anyway. That's my spiel.
Pop off, Queen. That was good.
It just makes me mad when people like
Iconic lines.
I just think it makes me mad when people use like status or like where you're at or how many Instagram followers you have or like what you're like. People make it very flashy, but most of this is actually very nasty and dirty and gritty work. And I would never ever speak on like what I do specifically or like what I make specifically, because that's for me, you know, like it's not everybody's business what I'm doing, but it, like what I had to do to get here has been extreme. I lived in a house that was falling apart. It was trying to take me with it before I moved to Austin. And I was like, no, I'm going to save myself. I'm going to get out of here. Like, you know, I basically was on like that borderline between like life and death. And I've been there ever since I, you know, crawled out. That's just where we live as devotees, I think. Like, first of all, that's where we are. And if you watch documentaries, none of those people are like going to be like super flashy, but they're humble and they do what they need to do, and it doesn't matter how they do it. And like none of them are going to be like super like flashy about it. It's become like this like status show, and it's really gross to me. It's like I'm super fucking humble, but because I got it honest and because I actually came into spaces wanting to listen and not wanting to like run my mouth. So it's kind of just I value listening because it really has shown me like the trail that I need to follow, and it's one of the I think hardest ones, and it still sucks. You know, it's not a good place to be in, but that's where we are. But at the same time, I'm doing everything that I wanted to do, so it's kind of interesting to see how it mirrors in that way. Okay, I'm done. Y'all could go now.
So no, it's just
I
like
just
you
like
literally
that
said what I was
question.
gonna say. It was like those of us here who work with Santa Muerte, like, bitch, this story is copy and paste for all of us.
Yep.
And
Universal almost.
she like that's why like when people are like I want to I'm gonna work with Santa Muerte, and I'm like, bitch, pause, freeze, nobody move. Are you sure? Like, is this something you're willing to go through? Because
It's
like
lifelong,
this
and it's
isn't
gonna
just
wreck
like
your shit in the process because that's the point. You have to grieve something.
exactly. She's gonna say, oh, okay, well, and I've said this before on the podcast, like as devotees to Santa Muerte, we're always gonna take every opportunity to die,
Yeah.
and be reborn, in some kind of way, shape, or form, you know. And I think a lot of people forget that, like, that aspect of her, and just are like, oh my god, whatever, it's gonna be fine, and then shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And they're not prepared for that.
I mean, a lot
It's
of
like
people like
forget she is death.
you're literally inviting the death current into your life
Exactly.
to work with it. So it's like, but at the same time, like
Mhm.
if like I always refer people to the documentaries that were filmed in Mexico. Like, first of all, like most of the time when you reach out to death, whether it's Santa Muerte or like the energy of your practice or path, whatever you choose to name it, because even the ones in my preliminary research, I was always attracted to death entities or death spirits that represent that force. It wasn't until I found her that things started actually moving, clicking, which is just like, hello, why? But then, you know, it led me here. So I'm like, ooh. discernment's very important to develop with this because, again, you're going to have people who I think will teach what you can get, but not what you have to give. And it's like, I can't speak for everybody in it, but it's like if you look at why why a lot of people start even reaching out or working with her, it is because they have like no other source of, who else to appeal to but to death herself, right? If you're in a life or death situation, if you feel like, you know, your life isn't going the right way and you're very close to that edge, who else to make a relationship with? And you see, the miracles happen from that point. So it's kind of like, it's not, something that is, I think it's beautiful that more people are finding out and starting to seek out their knowledge on her. But I think it's very instant gratification focused more so than you're in a very tough place
Absolutely.
in life and you don't know if you're going to make it, or you've lived a false life and that life needs to die. In a sense, that's how it was for me. When I first met her, I didn't know who I was at all, and she carried me through every single death I've had in my life, including like my mom. That was a very pivotal moment in my life. And that was when, in a sense, one sacrifice was made. Not saying that my mom was, but there were things that I was trying to do, which I won't really go into depth with because they're personal. But it was just heavy to watch your life completely flip over, like the hourglass flip over, if you will, when you realize, it's not fun and games, and it's a lifelong devotion. And for me, it's one of the only ones because I see her as like, she's la reina, she's, the queen, she's the orchestrator, the teacher, the governess of whatever I do next. So it's kind of like I see her as the boss, and that's anything between me and her is an ally or an assistant, or a spirit to build a relationship with. But she will always be like the gatekeeper or the doorway or like the crossroads for me to be able to access those worlds.
I love that for y'all so much, who get those crossroad aspects of Santa Muerte. That is not the form that comes to me. Uh, but no, like you said something, and it's like a it's such a conflicting feeling, and we're kind of digressing a little bit, but um, Santa Muerte becoming like more mainstream is like so hard to like watch because it's like, yes, yay, love her, wonderful, wonderful. Now, but now there's like all this bullshit around her, all this like their lack of seriousness,
Yeah.
and it's like this isn't something that's without danger. Like, newsflash, she's deaf. There is danger here, and a lot of people nowadays are like, oh, there's like nothing wrong with Santa Muerte. There's no danger with Santa Muerte. There's no like, everything's gonna be fine. Your life is gonna be amazing, and it's like, bro, yes, like there is this aspect of amazingness that can happen because of Santa Muerte, but shit is gonna happen first. And
Yeah.
also there is dangers that happen. Like we said, like being devotees of death, we're around it all the time. I can't even begin to list the amount of times I've almost died or been killed or had these near death experiences in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I've been robbed at gunpoint and I laughed at the guy who had the gun in my head because I'm like, bitch, I told him, he put the gun in my head and I said, bitch, are you joking? Um, like, this is just my life, okay? Death is not something that's going to be scary to me. But I also know that this is something to expect pretty much consistently in my life. Death is going to be present in some way, shape, or form because like attracts like. If you are working with death and you are devoted to death and you are around her all the time, death is also going to come around you. And also, Santa Muertes loves to test. She's going to be like, okay, how are you going to be after I do this to you? And we have to see if we're going to make it or not. And she has no problem. Like, she definitely will rip you out if it seems like it's going to be way too much, but she knows that you can handle it and she's going to watch. And she's like, no, keep going. I know you can do it more. You can make it out. You can make it out. No, I'm not going to help you make it out. No, crawl out yourself. I know you have 2 hands. Use them. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that. And I think in terms of the practice in general, a lot of people have this, I'm forgetting the specific word for it, but like they expect everybody to get a trophy. This isn't how that works. Not everybody's going to be handed a trophy. You need to do the work. You need to do the work well, and you need to do the dirty bits in order to get that trophy. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that.
I agree.
Period.
It's like,
Yeah.
um, that's why I'm like, I don't like that the learning has not, it's mostly been reduced to short form. I learned from a lot of different people, but it's like, I still was very independent in seeking out research at first because it was just me by myself. So I was like, how am I supposed to learn about this if I don't, actually read some books and, let her kind of guide me along the way. But it still took like years to develop that. It's not like you just get it instant. And I think it's become a market. That's mainly the issue that I see is it has unfortunately become an extremely popularized market, which means if, you're talking about it, someone's going to get pissed at you for taking their money because they're making money off of this version or that version, which is again why I don't spread things about her. I will talk about her in my personal experience, but even that is very minimal because it's personal to me. I don't want people knowing everything just because I think it's a responsibility on my end. I mean, I think it's like The Witch's Creed or something like that. It's like in one of the books. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it's basically the one that's like, to know, to will, to dare, to keep silent, all that stuff. I take that very seriously, even though like that's not necessarily the same thing, but it is like knowledge that I have been given and like that I just try not to spread willy-nilly just to make a buck because it's not about that for me. It's about my life.
Yeah, our spirits love to tell us to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I think it like TikTok, Instagram, like you said, short form content has been so detrimental to the occult space altogether.
Well, and the world,
and,
like people, we see this all the time.
yes,
like
yes,
when
yes, yes,
I
yes.
worked in cosmetics, it's like people can't think for themselves anymore, or they can't like take themselves away from a screen for 5 minutes and actually sit at their altars and, actually open that door because, oh, they already got it. Like I've heard a lot of really weird rules that I've never heard of before in my life, except for probably on TikTok. And granted, like maybe that was traditional in someone's family. I don't know because I wasn't taught that way. But it's like, again, it's very weird how people don't critically think about what they're absorbing anymore. And it's like in a 5-second video. I think, there's a lot and many tendrils of this that, one, a lot of them are probably going to be hidden still. Like it's not really, you're not going to know unless you like really find somebody that like practiced way back before it became popular, before it even became public. But it's like, it's still your job to get to know the spirit in front of your face that you claim to be devoted to.
Yeah, I mean, like, go ahead, Len.
It also doesn't help, like social media, of course, but it also doesn't help that there are some authors who are writing about Santa Muerte who don't practice, who don't engage. They're literally just writing it as if they are practiced. There is some drama. I remember this. There is drama about a academic who wrote a book on practicing working with Santa Muerte, and she tried to come across as she herself was Latina. She is not. She was a white woman that wrote this book, and it's just horrible. She like stole information from people from communities in Mexico, didn't credit them, and was like, yeah, this is what I do. She's an academic. She's not a practitioner. So she's out here sharing misappropriated information. make sure vet your authors, vet your teachers, vet the people that you get information from, because some of these people don't even engage with the spirit at all. Like they just, it's horrible. But there was something that I wanted to. 'Cause I know that it's been a bit since we talked about it, but like the question, like how does sacrifice serve? I can give you a alleged example
I know we
of
really went
how
on a big tangent. I
sacrifice
was like,
has served. It's all good.
I
It's
was
all
like,
good.
we're
It
over here
happens.
floating
We
in
do that. We do
ADHD
that a lot.
world.
Right. But a example of that is someone, I will not name who, but spoke with me about how locally there were elections going on in regard to um, a public school. I think it was like an elementary school or something. It was something about like relocating things, moving things around, just something the city was doing. And all these Republicans were pushing for this specific thing on that in regard to that vote. And they got it, but it at to the detriment of the land and to the community. I don't remember the specifics. I just know that it negatively impacted the land itself, to the point where the land demanded a sacrifice. So through that, very similar to something that we've talked about before, allegedly, that has allegedly been done. A huge storm came in, lots of flooding, insane flooding. Um, Only that nice neighborhood, because of course the Republicans in this town are rich, um, and only the nice side of town was impacted by the floods, and there were deaths. There were hundreds of deaths. Um, Sometimes sacrifice, like they as the community fought so hard for this and didn't give anything in return for this. So the land demanded that blood.
Yeah,
The
it's like
land
nature
demanded that.
said, here we go.
And I just think like, yep, yeah.
Allegedly, sacrifices will be made, and that's something, and that's something I'm willing to do, or whatever the fuck. I'm gonna switch it around. The Lord Farquaad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch it around. I'm gonna do the sacrifice. This one wasn't me. For all our listeners,
I
this
know.
one- and listeners,
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking. Not me this time.
It was not Sebastian.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
The other time, maybe. Allegedly. I can neither confirm nor deny whether that was me or not. And bitch, I would do it again. But yeah, that's like
It's like not
such
gonna
a good
say it was me, but I'll just,
example.
I'll let you think.
Critical thinking skills.
Yeah, was it me or was it not? Let's read the context clues.
2 + 2 = what?
Me.
Such a great example. Like whether or not you give sacrifice, sometimes the sacrifice will be taken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're gonna wake up overdrafted one day.
So, girl.
Or like sometimes I was like, I would just wake up and be like, what's happening now? What, like, oh my gosh. And then it's like, oh, I get it. And then it's definitely very humbling, I will say.
I will say, your listeners, either make the sacrifice yourself and make it easier for yourself, or it's going to happen either way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're just
And it's like
prolonging
either
your
you're going to go
suffering
with it.
in a way. If you would just get it over with and rip
And
it
it's like-
out, go ahead. Just go ahead and give it up. It's
Or-
time. You know it's beyond time. Like, no use
Mhm.
crying over
Literally,
spilled milk.
alleviate
It's already
yourself,
all over the
girl.
floor. Like, just go ahead. Like, get it over with. Because I'm very resistant
Kill yourself, but
sometimes.
not
I'm
really.
like, no, I'm not.
Kill yourself, but not really.
Like, just let the, what is it? Cord cut. Let the old self go. Just let her fly. She's ready to
Yes.
just she's ready to go. But like, no, I
we
definitely
were
What happened
just-
with that movement? Go ahead, Len.
if we were just to like change the wording, the terminology to something like, what is it that these pussy womb magic bitches love?
Wait, what?
They love the like the cord cutting shit, like something super like just call it a cord cutting and they'll take it, and run. I don't know.
Have you? Okay, this is
I know.
so
I feel
off
like
topic.
we need to do. Go ahead.
But like, since you spoke about like pussy womb magic, have you heard of like yoni gazing? That was some of the weird stuff that I found on TikTok before I left. If not, we don't have to
What
talk
the
about it.
fuck?
It's not safe for work. But
That's okay.
we'll
We're
go
gonna
back.
put that
We'll,
on
we'll
the
put
post
out
show. Hold on,
yeah,
somebody write this
let's-
down.
yoni gazing.
Write this
Put
down.
yoni
You
gazing in the
said
notes.
what?
Yoni gazing. Like, I shit you
Oh,
not.
hell
This
yeah,
was some
this is
real
so fun.
shit. I was like, are you for real? I don't have a yoni, so how's that gonna work?
Wild.
Sorry. Anyway. God, I'm too brash. I'm not
my
meant for
God.
the public ear.
I feel like we have to do like reverse psychology on these bitches,
Yeah.
and be like, we have to like rephrase like actual real practice and like healthy practice, like spiritual techniques, but like we have to name it like some kind of like toxic positivity bullshit, so that way the stupid white bitches can run with it and make it popular, and then we can actually change the world in a positive way that way. We're gonna reverse psychology these bitches. And we're gonna Pavlov these bitches. Somebody get a bell. A clicker.
Oh no.
But we're also gonna make it like, bitch, every time they say rose quartz, like I'm gonna tase them.
Yes.
Somebody needs to. Okay, never mind. I have so much stuff for this post show. I have to contain myself. Let me put it all back together. Anyway, where were we?
I think honestly, I think that was everything. Did you have any other questions, Len, or anything you wanted to say?
No.
No.
Okay, well,
Not for the main show anyway.
right. Any final thoughts from you, Genesis? Anything you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Fuck ICE. Support your trans community because we're all like on the fringes over here. Support the gays, the days, your people of color, especially. Support the hoodoos. Support everybody because you know, like it's nasty outside, and no, like it's just we're not having it. Not in my house. So you know. That's pretty much what I'll
You're
leave
in
them
the
with.
Ghetto. Okay, well, fantastic. Well, I would love to say that we're done, but we have one more thing. We have a question from a listener. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Why?
But we're going to
I'm just
read
kidding.
girl, it is an essay.
It's
It
an
is
essay?
It's an essay.
I'm gonna read the essay.
Respectfully. I
Love
will
that.
send it to you. I will
Okay.
send it to you. We love this person. They are like one of our, if they are our biggest fan, honestly. So give me 1 second to find where the question is.
We
Okay,
love
okay.
Pablo.
love you, Pablo. Okay, it says, okay, I want to hear about your guys' opinions about ego and spiritual work as a whole. Understandably, there is a pipeline to mental insanity when you actually do the work, but when is it pure breakthrough versus shameful instability?
That's an interesting
That was the whole
question, but
question?
I think I have some insight. I don't know. I'll try.
Yeah, because the rest is like experiences and context to kind of explain that why they're asking this question.
Are they well?
Okay.
Okay, like I don't
Yeah.
know. This is getting very like I can't give health advice because that's not my job. But
Right.
I'm just gonna speak from my own experience because again, this has to do a lot with ego death in a sense, and also like I'll do my best maybe to answer in a way that makes sense. I don't know. Okay. Let me think. I know that like in the past, and granted, this is my experience, so I'm not telling people to do what I did. But really because of a lot of oppression that I faced as someone growing up not believing in magic, and their family didn't believe in magic. The only person who believed in that stuff was like my mom that passed because she was from Louisiana. So of course she's gonna have some of that undertone in there. She had mojo beans. So, I found them after she passed. But anyway, long story short is there's a lot of that undertone there, but like no one ever really believed in it in my family like that except me. But granted, because of a lot of the dysphoria and stuff that I was going through, which I think is a lot of times when you are trying to be authentic to yourself and you're met with, the American dream idea of who you're supposed to be, being trans, for example, is like, no, you could be anything but trans, Um, I was diagnosed with with mental illness before, and I was medicated for it, probably too early, too soon, and by the person whose diagnosis was rooted in transphobia. So it's kind of like that part of me also had to die, but it really didn't like translate that over until I started working spiritually. So in a sense, I had to question everything that I knew about myself, that, I was told I was crazy for a lot of things I was experiencing, for example, but like that's a fine line that you have to approach in a safe and 100% like, this is not health advice. So the way that, you approach what you deem insanity and ego and kind of how you walk your practice is going to be for you. I do advise that if you are having, thoughts that are unsafe or, if you're seeking treatment, continue to do so. However, if you're having questions, find a provider that is willing to listen to your questions and concerns and actually hear them. Not everybody in those professions are going to be supportive of, what you want to do with your life, whether that is, try a different treatment program or try, to find yourself for yourself or try therapy, etc. I'm trying not to sway anybody to do like something that could potentially harm them or others. But it's like when you're finding yourself for yourself, when you are an adult that is, 18 and up in the United States, you have autonomy that includes medical autonomy, but also, like, for example, part of the sacrifice of this is I don't really have insurance and I like don't have a lot of access to the same forms of care that I used to when I lived, I guess the false life or like the life that wasn't my own. But it's like because a lot of that proximity to that was removed when I, came out and transitioned and in a sense started working for myself, being self-employed, you lose a lot of access to these things. But like your ego can't be like the center of it anymore. It's much more communal because you have to be, otherwise you kind of won't do very well on your own. So you have to seek out those resources that, before any of this, before therapy, before any of this was popularized or self-centered in a way, the community was that. So it's kind of like these medicines that, are still necessary and valid. And I'm not telling anybody to not seek medical treatment, but at the same time, your community is going to provide something for you as well if you don't have access to that. But you have to actually get over yourself to do that. So it's kind of like you have to evaluate that for yourself. That's not a question that anybody can like answer for you, I think. But you do have to like listen to your discernment and ask the questions that you need to ask for yourself. I hope that wasn't a harmful answer, but
Len, do you have an answer?
I'm reading it right now just because I want to make sure that I'm understanding the question correctly.
yeah, so I also don't
Um,
know if I just didn't understand the question.
and I'm still not sure that I do.
I think okay, so
No.
from what I from what
I just think that because I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Go.
I just think that I wonder if it's like stemming from because we've talked about before, like we've joked about it without actually like going into detail about it, like spiritual psychosis and how easy it is to slip into that. And I wonder if that's what the question is asking about.
I mean, and that's like
Um,
something like I don't
like
know if I really want to be like oh yeah, just like do this, or like I don't know. It's just weird because I can't reality test for somebody else. So it's kind of like a little
Yeah.
tricky.
I do think that it's important to have people close to you who are also practitioners, that
Yes.
can verify things for you,
Yes.
through divination. I would encourage anyone to confirm on their own and with someone else if you feel like you need to.
Yeah.
Um, but it also seems like so I have two things to say about that. Like, yes, have someone close to you that you can rely on, that you can verify things with, confirm with, but also um, for you have to have. I know that there's connotations with the word faith, but you have to have faith in your magic, in your spirits, in the things that you do. Uh, Otherwise, why do it? Is it just like I don't know? Like this is Austin Fuller actually made a post, not a post, but like talked about it on their story recently, with because I think it was like a week or two ago that there was this white woman uh, who was talking about doing witchcraft or whatever, but it was just new age spirituality, um, and they were talking about uh, they said capital W witches and lowercase w witches, lower capital M magic, lowercase m magic. It was weird and uh very very white woman, very like I'm better than you, very that. Um but it's like where was I going with that? You have to have faith in your magic. You have to have faith in the things that you do. Um yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Well, yeah, I
I think,
agree.
yeah, like the question is about, yeah. I do agree. You do need that. You do need to keep in mind professional medical advice and help, which I'm not giving. It's not my wheelhouse. Um, but what I'm gonna say is, I think the questions about those like egotistical people in the spiritual community who are like, who love to say that they've gone through ego death or they've killed their ego
Yeah.
and like stuff like that, but then they're like these pretentious assholes who are like also shaming other people, and
Yeah.
it's like, bro, you are like the most egotistical person.
Yeah, you
Your
like read
ego
my
is
mind.
so
That was kind
inflated.
of like my
It's
next thought about like, okay, that's probably what that question's about. But no, I'm glad you said
Yeah,
it because
and
I was
so
like,
I
that was
think
in my
too,
head.
I think like the idea too is like, I think we have this misconception, because there's a lot of new age spirituality that takes ego and concepts of ego from Eastern and philosophies of Asian philosophies and Southeast Asian philosophies and Southern Asian philosophies, and takes it as this concept that you should have zero ego, that your ego should die entirely and there should be no ego left. But your ego is what is your survival instincts. The problem is nowadays you get so deep into your ego that it becomes this overinflated, big, separate entity from you that you think you're grander than
Yeah.
life. The concept of ego is meant to keep you alive. It's where your fight, flight, or freeze actually comes from. And there is a healthy amount of it. Now, in my opinion, my personal opinion, it shouldn't be big. Like, if it should be like a marble, not a fucking basketball, or the size of your fucking head. But I think a lot of people take the concept and run with it, and they take it as this idea of like, oh well, my ego, I killed my ego, so I'm better than you. But it's like, dude, that is the definition of ego. You're contradicting yourself. And also, if you're going to take these influences from these Asian philosophies, these Asian philosophies also ask you to help people in these egos, with their ego concepts. The concept here is like the same with like the Avalokiteshvara. We're going to lead everybody with compassion to enlightenment, and you're not going to lead someone to enlightenment if you're like, oh, you have a massive ego, you're less than me. That's not going to help anybody. Also, this idea that you're better than anyone is such a stupid fucking idea that you've gotten because of your ego and because you don't have the correct minds, the correct headspace and you have this idea of ignorance, because quite frankly, it is ignorance.
Yeah.
The idea here as practitioners is that we are constantly, till the day we fucking die, and because we're practitioners, after we die even, constantly learning. We are constantly learning. We are constantly having experiences. We are constantly having these things. We will never reach a point of knowing everything. And the point of being a practitioner is to always want to have the need and have that desire to want to grow, to have that desire to want to learn, to not be this know all and be all. Like the whole concept in practice of sorcery, of certain types of witchcraft in the past was this idea that we had this insatiable desire for knowledge. We were always striving, like, I need that new grimoire. I need to know this. I need to summon the spirit who can teach me this. I need to blah, blah, blah. It wasn't about, oh, I'm better than you. We didn't see that until white people came along. And then there was that thing that kind of implemented itself and crawled its way through as the parasite that it is, that we see this idea nowadays, especially on social media.
Yeah.
Of that kind of concept. And then of course that, I won't talk too much about it, but then we have that bleeding into spiritual psychosis, and then that those types of people leading other people into spiritual psychosis, and it's just a domino effect. So you need to have discernment. You need to have people that you can rely and trust on. Quite frankly, if you have somebody, I'm not going to say anything specific about the situation, but if you have somebody in your life who's kind of being a certain type of way, girl, the block button is free.
Yeah. I love it.
The block button is free. Cut them off. Who cares? Girl, you're going to be the bad guy anyway. These people are not the type of people you can reason with. And they have to go through their own experience, and you have your own experience. Stay in your lane. Girl, keep your head straight. Don't be pressed. Don't let these people bother you. The other thing I want to mention is that it's kind of like natural selection in the practice. Not everyone's meant to practice this shit, okay? And it is historically known that in folklore, certain people would go insane if they tried to do certain shit. Girl, it's called thinning the herd. Let those bitches do their thing, and you as a real practitioner, you as whatever, stay in your lane. Keep working on you, keep learning, keep striving, and let these people who think they know everything and that they're better than everybody, let them. Eventually shit's gonna sort itself out, or you could do something to sort it out. Allegedly. And that's just my opinion. And that's my answer.
Oh, I have a little twist because I like what you were saying. Because I've seen also like the extremism of either a like having like a big old ego because of your practice, and people will basically like essentially really shit on other people all the time, which is, you know, not favorable in my opinion, but who am I? But anyway, or I see like the lack of it, but I think that also comes from like not having a congruent like sense of self yet. A lot of people learning this are very young, and they're learning from TikTok, and they're learning from very instant gratification. The way the culture has shifted, it's great because you get awareness to all the stuff immediately, but at the same time, the time for it to actually develop and become congruent with who you are as a person is not there anymore. So it's like very much two sides of the same coin, where it's either overinflated or underdeveloped. It was a lesson I had to learn because I didn't know who I was, which is why like at the beginning, I think everybody who starts their practice like goes through like their seeking stage, right? Where they actually like kind of they're trying to figure out what spirits are actually calling to them, and it's a call and response. You'll get radio silence from a lot of these paths and practices. No one will answer, and then when you find one that answers, that kind of starts the wheel turning. But also it's like that time to actually develop that is missing, I think. I think it's like path, like cherry picking or path hopping, where it's, you don't give the spirits time to actually come to you, and some of them will come quicker than others, depending on who, what, where, why, and how. But like also just how much time you give to actually let that develop is crucial, I think, because your brain is not even solid yet. You know, it's not all there just yet, and we need like that's why eldership is eldership for a reason. I think is because you actually literally like you live a very long time, and that's a lot of lessons that you can then start giving back in that way. So it's kind of like the removal of that very crucial timepiece, and also just where you are at on a development level in your brain is so important. It takes time.
I have
That's now
to
missing.
agree. You're not here to collect them all unless you're me.
Like people want the
Um,
cake and they want to eat it too, but they want it to be like right after it's out the oven
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like they don't want to, savor it anymore, or it's just there's a very instant. Again, it's a lot of times a societal contextual issue because I mean back then you had no other way to learn but to go out and develop over the years. Now it's like it's all being force fed and it's very quick, but there's not really time for it to digest or be applied anymore. And I think a lot of people feel pressured, even from a societal and external context, because they see everybody else doing well. And, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do well. There's nothing wrong with wanting, power to change your life or change things in others' lives or do it for a reason. But at the same time, it it's really a maturity thing where you have to go through these things as they come in time. You have to live, you have to have like life experience coupled with, research and one-on-one gnostic and spiritual experiences and being taught, seeking out mentors. It's totally different now, and you're not just going to get it from one book or one online YouTube video or one course or one TikTok. It's a culmination. Like I've read so many different books from many different paths and practices, but at the same time, there was always a piece that would make sense of where it came from and how it ties in here, how it could overlap here, and how it has changed culturally. So it's very quick. I'm really grateful that I was kind of at the end of the generations that still had to learn things the old school way, but even then now everything's so instant. And so we're met with these questions and we're expected to give like instant answers that kind of satisfy the whole learning that's behind that question. Like how people want yes, no,
your
yes,
spirits
no, yes, no.
are your spirits are not talking to you through that fucking YouTube tarot reader, okay?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
This did not find you.
No
This isn't meant for
hashtags.
you.
No hashtags.
Called a
No hashtags, no ads.
Take what
It
you
was meant for
want,
you.
leave the rest. Like, share, claim it, claim it. I hate those fucking
But then
videos.
again, there's also that
Claim this
entertainment
energy.
piece that has been tied into the survival of how Liz Pass survived. I mean, not everybody
Yeah,
that's going to
yeah.
sit in front of our table is going to want a real tarot reading. They're going to want that entertainment. They're going to want to see those hands and those cards fly, and that's what you're going to give them. But also, you know that because you have discernment. Not everybody is going to come to you for work either, and not everybody's going to come to you to do their work or get advice about what work they should be doing. You can talk at them all day, but they won't receive it. So it's kind of like, let them mentality. Let them either grow or let them not. But either way, you're doing your work by putting it on the table. But it's their job. Like someone can hand you keys to the door. My elder is handing me keys, and I didn't even know at the time that I was getting keys. And by keys, I just mean pieces of information that are not me being taught their path, but they are keys to a doorway to unlock things for myself. But they're holding them. And in those conversations, my life changed. That's like some power that I've seen from a lot of my elders is that they don't need a candle or anything, and I don't go to them like looking to learn their practice. I've been, just a witness and a guest, and I've been invited into many different places in my life. But they will dangle keys because they know that you're willing to listen. And then that's your job to take those keys and go unlock your own doors that are meant for you. But you have to find those. And that takes time. And it takes no's. It takes no's. I've approached so many different practices and I was like, oh, that's actually not for me. Let me go the other way. Oh, they said no, bye. Like it's a learning process, but it's not one to like, oh, let's document this, put this on Instagram, or like let's make it public. Let's make it like a show. It's not a show. It's your life. Don't make a show out of your life. That's ego.
Yeah. I made a post and it was basically like a reminder like this is social media, everything is curated.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is curated. So like for me, like a lot of my practice looks like I share a lot. Girl, it's not.
There's
It
so much
really isn't.
behind
Y'all
those
think you
doors that
know
nobody
my
will know. No one.
exactly. Exactly. Like
Nobody.
not even like my partner doesn't even know things. Len doesn't really know. People who have known me for years don't know. The only thing people who know are the spirits in me. And some shit has to stay like that. And I think that's the other thing is like everybody wants to share everything, and it's like no, we've talked about this before. Sometimes the spirits said shut the fuck up. They said don't say that. Don't share that. They said silence. um, and you have to listen to that, and I think that is something that we need to be mindful of. I think people forget that this is called witchcraft and sorcery, but the overall arching term here is occult, and occult means hidden. It means not like, well, no, this is hidden knowledge. It's not meant for everybody. Stop telling everybody shit. um Basically gatekeep a little bit. um or a lot. Right. Use your discernment, listeners. Truly. This has been such a good episode. Low-key, this has healed me from a other experience we had that we'll talk about. So healing, wonderful, fantastic. We've loved having you on Genesis. Do you want to go ahead and let people a quick reminder for them where they can find you and anything else you'd like to say or add? We love to hear that. We're loved having you on. I am so grateful for this opportunity to have you on, and this was such a great conversation, super enlightening. I'm so happy we got to talk about sacrifice. I love stuff like this. Obviously, if you know me, and super excited to have you on in the future again, hopefully. But next week here on Unsanctioned, we're going to talk about occult tattoos. I'm super excited for this one. We're going to talk about the importance of tattoos, occult tattoos, where they lie in the practice, where they can sit for you, and what that looks like with me as Sebastian, the tattoo artist. But don't forget to join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/unsanctioned. The UNS is capitalized, where we have 3 tiers for you to embark upon. We have the Heretic, the Malefactor, and the Blasphemer. The Heretic is only $3 a month, and you get a lot of things like access to the post show, monthly forecast readings. You also get Q&As answered on air and some other little things here and there. And then your Malefactor tier is at $8 a month, and your Blasphemer tier is at $13 a month, and you get a lot of special things in all of those, such as the weekly forecast Tonalamat reading from Len, and some other great opportunities, such as a live audience access to our recordings here in Riverside.
And at this time, we would like to thank our Patreon supporters at the Blasphemer tier by name. Pablo Rodriguez, thank you for your support and walking with us on the path less traveled. And we want to hear from you. Share your stories, encounters with spirits, or your own forbidden rituals. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Unsanctioned Podcast, or email us directly at podcastunsanctioned@gmail.com.
Remember, what's considered taboo is often where strength and power lies. Stay unbound, stay unsanctioned,
Until next time, walk boldly into the shadows.
and let the forbidden be your guide.